यहाँ की ऐसी है फिजा, आरती और अजान से भरी है दुआ। नज़ारे हजारों हैं यहाँ, फिल्म सिटी और पैलेस फलकनुमा। गोलकुंडा किला है इतिहास का गवाह, हुसैन सागर से आती भीनी सी हवा। चार मीनार पर रहती हलचल है भाई, ईरानी चाय की चुस्की लेने कहाँ कहाँ से पब्लिक आई। कहीं लाट बाजार की चमकीली चूड़ियों की है खनक, और कहीं है मोती और हीरो के हार की दमक। चांद बिस्किट, हलीम, बिरयानी और खुबानी का मीठा है यहाँ की शान। मुकम्मल नहीं है आपका सफर जनाब, अगर आप इनसे रहे अनजान। निजामों के शहर हैदराबाद का आप सभी को सलाम।
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Hyderabad Chapter of the Asian Literary Society, I extend a very warm welcome to you all. My guest tonight is a very, very talented writer. She happens to possess an MPhil in communication and journalism, and she's currently pursuing an MFA in writing from the Writers' University. Now, Sarveswari Sai Krishna is a writer that I have known for a number of years. I have personally looked up to her and her style of writing. And apart from being a prolific writer, she's a terrific human being who's not only helped me, but a lot of others in trying to better our craft. So without further ado, I would like to invite Sarveswari Sai Krishna.
Good evening, guys.
Sarveswari. Good evening. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Sonal, and I thank you, Manoj Krishnan, and the Asian Literary Society for this opportunity. I'm honored to be here.
We are absolutely thrilled to have you on board. So, Sarveswari, I'm absolutely amazed by the fact that you already possess, an MPhil in communications and journalism, and yet you have chosen to pursue a master's in fine art so that you can hone your craft. You're already such a prolific writer. My question to you on this is, do you think it's important for a writer to have such a degree?
I mean, if you mean that, does a writer need a degree? I would definitely say no.
Okay.
So, is it a prerequisite? Definitely not. To be a writer, you don't need a degree. What is needed is that urge, that need and compulsion to get the story out of you. And some story, any narration out of you. There will be something you would have noticed somewhere, and you could present it in such a way that the world will love that incident. That is what is needed to be a writer. Having said that, once you start your journey as a writer, there comes a point where you want to widen your audience. You want to take it to the next level. First you write for your own self, then either for catharsis or just to write, and then comes a stage where your friends and relatives read, and then the circle gets bigger. There are bigger audience involved. There is market involved, and there is a certain protocols involved in writing. So if you reach that level, I mean, it is totally up to each individual. If you're happy with being read by a few and appreciated by, that's totally fine as a writer. And if you want to hone your skills, and if you think you have it in you to take it to the next level, then maybe a degree, any writing degree, not necessarily an MFA. Even a short-term course or any course could come.
So anything that will help you polish your craft a little better, so that the readership factor goes up.
Basically, yes, that's it. And you would know how to go about it. You needn't go. It wouldn't be a process of trial and error for each story. You would know what is wrong and what is right. Yeah.
Correct. So, Sarveshwar, as an author, I mean, you're a published author. I have read your work both online and offline. Do you think that as an author, when you cater to these different mediums in which your work is published, do you think that the factors that you keep in mind when you write, they change? I mean, it's like, for example, when you write for when you write for a newspaper, or when you write a story that is being published in a book, do you keep a different level of reader in mind when you write that?
This is actually an interesting question, Sonal. After you asked this, I actually, kind of thought about it. In case of an offline medium, say a paper or a book, there is certain level of investment in terms of time and effort needed. You actually
Correct.
have to pick the newspaper or the book, find yourself a comfortable, place yourself in a comfortable spot, open the book and start reading. In case you are not happy with the article or the story, the inclination to abandon it is less, because after all, you've moved your butt to a corner.
Right.
You might
Right.
as well finish the article. So the
Right.
inclination
Right.
to abandon that story is less. In case of,
Okay.
is less. After all, okay, fine, it's just 500 words. I'm almost 200 words into it. I might as well finish the next 300 words, whether I like it or not. Or and by the end of it, you might even like it by the
Correct.
end of the 500 words. But in case of online medium, all you need to do is a flick of a finger, a swipe. You're in another medium. You're in another world. You're in another article. The inclination to abandon is very tempting in online medium and very readily available. So, as a writer, there is this acute necessity to hold on to the reader until the end. You just cannot leave the grip on your reader until the end. Each line, each word matters in case of online writing.
Okay.
Otherwise the reader might just abandon you halfway through, and he wouldn't even feel guilty about
Okay.
it, because
Would
there's
it
no.
be correct if I say that in the online medium, we are keeping the reader in mind when we write, and in the offline medium, we are writing more for ourselves and to put the story that is inside us out there?
um,
Can we make that distinction, in your opinion?
it, Online medium is definitely reader oriented. It's more reader oriented, yes.
Right.
But offline, in both cases, I would write for a reader. I would write only for somebody to appreciate me. And let me be frank about it. No,
Right.
for me, there is no cathartic journaling. I don't do that. I sometimes don't enjoy writing non-fiction. To me, I need readers. So from my
Right.
perspective, any reader, online or offline, is the same to me, except that in offline, I can, l- I can afford to let go the reader's attention a few minutes or maybe a few seconds, and that is all I can afford. Because otherwise, he would, if you're going to bore him for 300 or 400 words, he wouldn't mind throwing away the book and taking another one.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
yeah.
Okay, so Sarvesh, as a writer who's lived her entire life in South India, and as a person who's seen this, the South Indian, I would say South Indian diaspora, very closely, do you feel that this kind of a certain regional factor kind of tends to creep into your stories at times, in terms of the characters, their names, the locations, the lingo possibly? Do you think that happens in your writing? Is that a conscious effort, or does it come subconsciously to you to write like that?
It is definitely not a conscious effort. I'm in a very nascent stage of writing, so I will write what I know. So the name, the setting, they subconsciously creep into my stories.
Okay.
Having said that, yes, I've attempted some stories, set in another country. I do my research. And even in a regional setting, I do adhere to research and everything. That is a must. Uh, but yes, it's a very I
It's a
write.
natural thing for that to
That's
happen.
the thing, yeah, that would be the word. It's natural for me to write, but no, I haven't found it in any way limiting. And
Okay.
I would say why. Because I think, especially in a short story, it is not the regional flavor which takes the story to the next level. I think it is the emotion that it conveys.
Correct.
And
Yes.
emotion, And
Absolutely.
emotion is always universal,
Hmm.
I feel.
I agree. I agree. Yeah.
Can I give you an example if you don't mind?
Absolutely. Yes, please.
Say there is this husband who's a drunkard
Hmm.
and who usually beats up his wife after a couple of drinks.
Hmm.
And there is his wife. She's a very timid lady, and the husband has instructed her to make dosa for dinner, and he has left
Hmm.
for his drinking binge.
Okay.
When he returns back, he expects his dosa to be crispy.
Hmm.
The wife, unfortunately, was not able to make it crispy on that night.
Hmm.
And she's petrified she will be beaten black and blue because she knows he's already drunk. And this would be the excuse he will use to beat her up.
Okay. Hmm.
Here, the emotion is the anxiety, the fear of being beaten black and blue. She will
Hmm.
know. He will come back to that dosa which is not crispy, and she knows that a few bones will be broken at the end of the evening. So
Yeah.
the fear is universal. Here, the
Correct.
regional flavor or the regional context, which is dosa, is
Uh-huh.
just a vehicle.
Right.
Whether the reader is from Nigeria or Brazil, all
Hmm.
he needs to know is dosa is a South Indian dinner fare, which needs to be crispy.
Hmm.
And in this case, it is not, and that's why the lady is fearing. So there need not be any elaborate master chef recipe for dosa for this. All we
Hmm.
need to
Hmm.
know is something which needs to be crispy. So
Correct. Correct.
I think, and it is very, very tiring for the reader to, go to glossary for every word there is. It's
And that's when
tiring.
we lose a reader basically at
Yes,
times.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It's tiring, it's
Hmm.
distracting, and it's totally, you lose the reader eventually. So, what I'm trying to tell you is a skillful reader will give the regional context such a meaning that it is incorporated in the story. You need not go here and there looking for the meaning. The story
Hmm.
gives the meaning for that regional context. So the emotion is universal. The flavor should be written in such a way that anybody can understand it. I think that is the reason why many of the regional writers are successful. I mean, any successful regional writer, you will find this, be it Vivek Shenbag,
Hmm.
that Gachor Gachar. It is not at all, it is totally based in, the whole story revolves in Bengaluru, but any person across the globe can relate to it because
Right.
the emotions,
And it's a pretty well acclaimed and well read book, actually.
yeah, it is. So
Hmm.
because that is basically because all the readers can relate to that, newfound newfound, I'm sorry, money, what it does to
Correct.
people, everything.
Hmm.
So yeah,
So basically, it's the text behind, I would say rather, it's the subtext behind the text that needs to connect to the reader. And once
reader,
that has
yeah,
happened, for any author, be it even a regional author, it's not very difficult to communicate to a
yeah,
wider, audience. So maybe, uh, so as a South Indian writer, what I understand is that you don't find it limiting. Geography isn't a concern. You don't find it limiting to reach a wider audience so long as you keep the text in your stories as you have explained, the emotion, underlying emotion remains universally acceptable, then the story is read by everybody.
exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
but Sarvesh, you've been writing for a number of years. I have a follow-up question on this. What about a new writer, a person who doesn't understand the nuances of writing as well as you do? What about an upcoming writer? Would they tend to use more of Southern lingo and locations and, kind of, there are certain, because India is such a vivid country and we have so many different regional changes that happen soon as we cross borders within the states. There are expressions that change, there are idioms that change, there are meanings that change. So do you think a newbie writer might find it difficult to let go of the regional factor when it comes to writing?
Yes, definitely. That would be a challenge, to overcome what you've learned, and to undo your learning and maybe learn for the wider audience. It will definitely be a challenge for a new writer, but it is not something which cannot be learned. As you write, as you hone your craft, eventually you will reach or at least you will try to reach a point where your text could be narration could be universal in its appeal, but then that comes from practice, and the only way to be a good writer is to keep writing, whether good or bad.
Correct.
And
I agree about that. Yeah, I agree. Okay, Sarvesh, I have another question on this. As a person who's been writing for so many years and as a trained writer, um, what is the, I would say, what is the percentage of a regional flavor that you can use in a story which you have written for a global audience? So maybe the story is set in, example, the story is set in Hyderabad. Your characters are, the Telugu speaking people. They belong to this region. The area is local. What the locations you're discussing is local. To what extent, or rather, what are the tips and tricks that would be needed to bring out this regional local flavor without it overpowering the rest of the storyline?
okay, so what are the tips? As I said, you, as far as possible, this is what from my perspective, from
Correct.
my perspective, I'm
Yeah,
telling.
that's what I want. Yes.
I'm not happy with glossaries,
Mhm.
and I'm not happy with words which would need a dictionary or an online
Mhm.
reference. So I'm not at
Right.
all happy. I think that will be distracting. So what
Hmm.
I would do is make sure the reader understands the regional context through
Hmm.
my narration itself. And
Okay.
how can I bring about that?
Hmm.
Say for example, in Tamil Nadu there is Jallikattu. That is,
Yes.
basically,
Right.
men trying to tame the bull.
Right.
In this scenario, how would I explain it to a somebody from Nigeria? That this
Hmm.
is a sport which I need to explain to a Nigerian. I can use authorial voice, wherein I, the author,
Hmm.
explain it. This is what Jallikattu is. During the month of Thai, that is
Hmm.
the one of the Tamil months. We do so and so, and we celebrate our agrarian society. So that is
Correct.
authorial voice, where the
Okay.
reader knows
The
it is the
author is
writer.
speaking to the reader directly.
Directly the writer is speaking to
Okay.
the reader.
Yes.
Then that is very that is, I don't approve of it. I don't approve of it at all. It doesn't look good in a
It kind
shop.
of sounds disjointed within the
Disjointed.
storyline, then,
That
right?
would be
Yeah.
the word. Disjointed.
Mm.
Another way would be, this is another example. A bystander, a foreigner, it could be anybody. Just a bystander standing, a minor character coming in and asking, "What is all this fuss about?" And he's telling, "This is what a Jallikat is. This is what we do." You mean really? You find this interesting? Of course, we find this interesting. That kind of, if it is in a dialogue
You
form,
show it in a, yeah, you show it in the story
in such a
instead of
way.
telling it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can modify it according to the
Hmm.
the tone your story needs. If you want to be
Hmm.
satirical, the bystander asks, so you find fun in torturing an animal, and the local
Hmm.
guy gets angry. So you what are you calling us on? I mean, you calling us brutes? Are you? Is that what you're implying? You can take it that way,
Right.
or you can take it another way. If you want to be more mm, you know um,
So you have many avenues open, and the writer is more in control of the story in this
yes,
aspect. The tips
exactly.
that
So,
you're sharing. Okay.
there are a lot of tools where
Hmm.
you can incorporate the regional flavor without original context, without actually taking anything away or distracting the reader from the story.
Story.
You know,
Right.
maybe this is where courses come into, writing courses.
Yes. Writing courses help you understand these nuances.
Because otherwise
Absolutely.
it is always trial and error, trial and error. By the time you actually learn the nuances, you would be, too tired to actually, do
Correct.
anything.
No, no, and then by the time you would possibly have been passed off as a has been by the readers also. So it's better
Yeah, yeah,
to understand these things and then incorporate them in your writing.
yeah.
You
So,
mentioned satire. Yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry. Am I actually answering your question? I mean, is that what you asked?
No, I asked that only. What I wanted was these tips and tricks to bring about the regional flavor and yet not overpower the storyline. So you've answered my question perfectly.
Thank you. Thank you.
You mentioned satire, and that's something that I have noticed in your stories, Sarvesh. I mean, for the past few years that I've been reading you, your stories are a very delightful mixture of satire and wit, but they're also juxtaposed with drama at times. At times, they're real tear jerkers. You always tend to bring out emotions, by using wit or satire, as you said. There might be a cynical comment thrown in here or there, but your text is always a delightful read. So, is this a deliberate attempt as an author after you have understood your reader, or is this just your style of writing?
Sonal, satire comes easily to me. I think that is one of the reasons. I have a big mouth. I have a big mouth and a very, very twisted sense of humor. That is in my DNA, I suppose.
Yeah, but
So
it makes for a delightful reading experience for us.
so it kind of like it comes easily to me,
Mhm.
and I enjoy writing satire. And but having said that, you know what actually gives me that sense of satisfaction, sense of fulfillment? I
Mhm.
would say, realistic fiction, be it humor or
Yeah.
pathos,
Hmm.
whatever. I love writing um, realistic fiction. Assume, Sonal, you are about to prepare a dish.
Right.
There is this one dish which comes out easily to you. You can
Mhm.
do it with your eyes closed. Your whole family loves it. They, stuff themselves with that dish.
Hmm.
And then there is this dish. You prepare painstakingly, measure it by mls and grams. You whisk it, you saute it, you fry it, you do all step by step. At the
Mhm.
end of the day, it is just one success out of 10.
Hmm.
Yet, when there is that one success, the sense of satisfaction you get is really amazing.
And the
So for me,
recall factor is greater.
greater,
Right.
exactly.
Mhm.
So to me, satire is like the dish I can whip up with my eyes closed.
Okay.
I'm happy with it. I'm really happy with it. But
Hmm.
what gives me that sense of fulfillment, though it is arduous and tiring process, I'd love
Mhm.
to, I aspire to excel in realistic fiction, which I'm still trying. There are a
Mhm.
lot of misses than hits now, but I think I'll get there eventually.
No, we wish you the very best. I mean, I've enjoyed reading your stories for a long time and I've been inspired by a few of them. I followed them in order to understand the nuances of writing. So I'm sure that this advice is going to come in very handy to viewers who are watching and aspiring to
Thanks.
become writers. Uh, Sarvesh, in your journey to become a writer, who have been your influences? I mean, any global writers or any regional writers that you can recommend to our audience?
Um, I really cannot recommend anybody. What works for me might not work for the next person.
True, very true. Yeah.
Yeah, but I can say who influenced me or inspired me a lot. Of course, there are a lot of people, foreign writers and Indian.
Mhm.
With regard to Tamil writers, I can say there is one writer called Chudamani. She
Mhm.
writes, she's bilingual. She wrote both in English and Tamil. Why she inspired me is because due to her case by itself was unique. She was confined to a room
Mhm.
because of her health issues all through her life. Her only window to the world was a window. There was nothing else she could do. She can't roam about, she can't get out, she can't get distracted, but she wrote. She wrote, and with a very heavy regional flavor,
Mhm.
yet there was anger, hatred, loyalty, relief, loneliness. So everything, every human emotion was explored, far and wide. I wish one day I aspire to write, to write like her. Yeah,
Okay.
that would be Chudamani, a Tamil
Mhm.
and a English writer. Yeah.
Okay. Sarvesh, it is said that writers need a vivid imagination. That the crux of their writing journey begins within the flights of imagination that they allow their mind to take. Do you agree with this?
Definitely yes. I would say yes. I would say yes, because if you are the imagination needn't necessarily be for a fantasy fiction.
Hmm.
Example that I gave earlier, the wife who's expecting to be trashed. What
Right.
would she go through? What would she go through? Would she try to avoid? Would she bolt herself into the room? Would she go seek a help of the next door neighbor, a handsome neighbor? What if
Mhm.
her husband sees her talking to the next door neighbor? She knows, the punishment would be worse than the non-crispy dosa. So
Mhm. Correct.
so yeah, so you definitely need imagination. I mean, you can. This is writing is one profession where you can let your imagination go.
It's fodder for the mind, basically, when it
Yeah,
comes to a writer.
it is not just one avenue. You can go. Maybe the wife will beat up the husband on his return. You know,
Right. Why
you know.
not? We
Why
can we
not?
can hope so.
Yeah, I had enough of this with you. One hit
Yeah.
with the dosha pan and he's
Enough
done.
enough nonsense. One fatak.
So, the one attack, and yeah, there
Okay.
is your thriller.
Right. Yeah. So you
There
completely
are
changed the storyline. I mean, even within that regional flavor, you completely changed the storyline now, and it's become a
yeah,
feminist issue now.
feminist
Yeah.
issue,
Okay.
or even
Right.
a thriller.
So I think is that why most writers, is that why most writers lead such solitary lives, or rather, writing is a solitary pursuit? Because these people have so many friends going on inside their imaginary friends going on in their head that they don't really need to connect to a lot of other people.
Hmm. Not I don't know, Sonal. I mean, I think as a profession, writing is a solitary profession, but not all writers need to, cry over small. Actually,
Right.
you needn't overreact. You can be perfectly normal and be a good writer. You needn't. I mean, there are, there are people who say, drink makes you write, drugs make you write. No, no,
Oh
they
my
don't.
God.
They don't. What makes you write is your imagination. You know,
Imagination. Correct. Huh.
just because you need
Without
you
that, there's nothing. Yeah. Without
just
that, there's nothing. Right.
nothing else
Correct.
makes you a writer. No, you are not Ernest Hemingway to claim that a couple of drinks makes me write better. No, that is just an excuse for you to
Right.
drink. I'm sorry. you know
Right. So I've read your stories, and you certainly embody what you preach. So you have this really vivid imagination, because I've seen you write on a multitude of topics. I've seen you attempt different genres. So have these flights led to have they culminated in a book yet, or have they culminated in any such project yet? What are your future plans?
my the Sonal, I am, and I've been writing short stories. I
Mhm.
keep writing new ones. I keep working on old ones. They are all there in my hard disk. I'm yet to find the uh, courage to
Motivation? Oh,
no
courage.
courage, definitely courage.
All right.
you
Okay.
know Courage to approach a publisher. Not that I'm
Mhm.
scared of rejection. I think I'm not up to that mark where I can thumpingly say the publisher will like it, at least consider it. I think I haven't reached that level. But yeah, hopefully, as I write more, I will one day have the confidence and the courage, and my stories will be good enough for a publisher to put his money in. It's, after all, at the end of the day, marketing.
Okay, you've just kind of proven a point that I wanted to make towards the end of the show. What I wanted to say before I ended the show was that, a writer is their worst critic. And I think you've kind of just proven that point for me, that yes, writers are their worst critics, because however many times a writer may read their story, they always find something, some tiny margin of error, and their fingers will always kind of itch to edit some portion of the story to make it better. So is that true for writers? Is that what's happening with you as well?
It is actually. You keep on finding faults. You know,
Right.
for people who out there are listening to it, a story never gets edited fully. As you learn, as you grow,
You
your
edit more.
perspective changes, new truths come out, new lies come out, and so will the eyes with which you see the story you've written 2 years back. So, you can edit all you want, till there is no one perfect story. There has to be a stage where you said, okay, this is it. I can't do anything more to the story. It is almost good. Now, that is when you start
Right.
submitting the story. You can't keep editing forever, because that can go on.
Right. Okay, my last question to you actually, Sarvesh, is a request. I'd like you to, any inputs that you can give to aspiring writers out there, particularly writers from regional areas. I mean, we are in southern India, so yes, in southern India, but other regions, what is that one piece or two pieces of advice that you can give them, which will help them in their literary journey?
You know, People want to know more about each region. So
Right.
there are enough readers out there. All you want to do is write in such a way that you connect to that particular reader. Somebody somewhere would want to know about hilly regions of Tamil Nadu or deserts in Rajasthan. There, how they eat, what they eat, how do they sustain during rainy season, how do they carry on without water during the summer. There are readers everywhere. All you need to do is write
Right.
in
So
such a way
basically,
that,
stay true to yourself, stay true to the region that you are from, represent that, but
yeah,
yet write for a global audience,
write
but
for a global
think from a
audience.
local perspective, so that you
Yeah,
can put that down on paper.
yeah. That's the right way to put it. Yeah.
That's beautiful advice, Sarvesh. Actually, I'm sure it is going to help a lot of our, budding writers out there. This has been a delightful session, Sarvesh. There are so many things that I personally have learned from you, just conversing with you. I wish we had more time, but our time is at an end. So, on behalf of the Hyderabad chapter, I would like to thank you for coming on board and sharing these insightful details about your writing journey and all the advice that you have given to the budding writers. Thank you so much, Sarvesh, and we wish you the very best in your literary journey.
Thank you, Sonal. Thank you so much.
Thank you. With that, we bring this to an end. We hope to see you again very soon. Thank you for joining us all tonight.